Pinkertons Ghosts is a horror anthology podcast by Superversive Radio, with no affiliation with any detective agency, person, real or imagined, or the dark forces of Outre Terre. It is not intended for children.
Jack Morrow here. I called in Jim Donavan for this one. The man was a little manic, but he was recovering. He refused to talk about it. I'm sure it's nothing. He performed well in the field, and besides, he had come down to my Ozark training hideaway to do some demonstrations. And by that I mean I made the trainees dodge his approximation of fireballs. Vietvo's information led us to Divide, Colorado. Now, Colorado is, was, will be, always enemy country. At least tacitly. The place is lousy with Masonic lodges, including a Grand Lodge just over Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs, as well as the Californians escaping their burning hole of a state. No offense to Jim, he knows where he lives. As Colorado inevitably succumbs to whatever physiognomy empowers Californians to ruin their homes, it long ago spiritually succumbed to masonry, self-worship, and rootless living. I could not tell you why. I spent a great deal of time in Denver preparing myself for the wild hunt, and I did not feel it so strongly then. Call me distracted. I did notice the endless homeless running around, the modern art that felt meaningless, more than normal, and that damn devil horse. I stayed as far away from that stuff as I could. Felt bad. Jim was disinterested in most of my experiences. He was distracted by his own problems, which he assured me I could not help. Unlike the two of them, Sean and Jim, I have no fingers in magic pies. My assistance in those things are limited. He did tell me he was whipping up something for me, but the magic took time to do right, and he keeps missing the right phase of the moon. I told him staring at the moon was making him go crazy. He said it wasn't the moon, and then refused to elaborate. Fair enough. I have my own secrets. Divide is a one-horse town that qualifies for a post office because it's close to Cheyenne Mountain, and the government wants to keep an eye on freaks like me who hate city living. It's probably a nice place to live if you can get past the encroaching deserts and lack of forest. I didn't feel good until we hit the trails 3/4 up Pikes Peak. Jack, I absolutely hate this. I grunted at Jim. You did not tell me there would be hiking. There was only 5 minutes of hiking. I love a good walk, but Jack, we are standing well above the breathing heights God intended non-Incas to live. It went on for a bit. Now, here's where the professional training comes in. Vietvo told me what to expect. There was a cabin, hidden by forests, at a certain location. Of course, even if Viet was conveniently leaving it out, it was going to be booby-trapped. I kept an eye out and cut around the back. Mostly we slunk from tree to tree, not touching the main trail. There could be traps, but there could also be a guard. And if there was a guard, I could take care of him. Simple. We got close. The element of surprise was with us even as I found an ATV at the back of the cabin. I could not find any tracks leading away from the cabin, not that the ground was conducive for a man to leave tracks. The back door was half closed. I shushed Jim and the two of us entered, guns drawn. The cabin was a large one-room affair with some tables and chairs, some alcoholic beverages and cups, and a single hanging light bulb. The floor was wooden, and we could tell that there was a basement underneath. Even though we stepped carefully, quietly, whoever in the basement probably knew we were there. Jim was the one who found the trap door. I opened it. I put down a mirror to act as a periscope. The basement was wider than the cabin by quite a bit. There were desks and papers and more scattered all over. A man in the back had tossed the place. Behind him was a shelf full of strange gizmos and flasks. Jim will get more out of them than I will, if we could recover any. An old man had the briefcase near him. From what I could tell, this had been a salvaging operation. Now he tried to burn the papers inside with a crappy lighter, while holding a double-barreled shotgun vaguely pointed at the trap door. He should have chosen one or the other. I flew down the trap door. One barrel of the shotgun negligently fired into the ground at his feet. He dropped the lighter and it looked like the fire went out. I fired a shot, catching his shoulder. He was more game than I thought, and as I came close to grapple and subdue him, he tried to club me with the butt of his shotgun. He shouted in shock when he saw my face. At least he knew me. I didn't think Jeremiah would bury me with this place. I need information, old man. My father does not send me to do anything. You're not. His eyes hardened. The man was maybe 50 years old. His face was lined with far fewer wrinkles than he should have had. He was not strong, but he kept me from breaking his grip on the weapon. I did not want to kill him. This was the first probable Grand Mason capture in months. We needed what he knew. The second barrel of his shotgun went off. It hit something that shattered, then went off with a bang. Both of us were thrown from our feet. I landed on a desk. Wind blew in from every direction, trying to toss me from my perch. The old man wasn't so lucky. He screamed in panic. He ran for the door, buffeted by winds and detritus. He did not make the trap door. Instead, he fell through the floor and kept screaming until his voice dwindled to nothing. Except at that moment, it wasn't a floor, it was a cloud bank. A cloud had spread under his feet, and the second he stepped on it, he fell through. He fell through like a man jumping off a bridge, not a man hitting quicksand or a hidden pool. There was not 1 ounce of resistance. It happened so suddenly. He couldn't stop himself or react. The cloud bank rose to just below the desk height. His hand disappeared, and then his scream. At the moment I think his head hit the floor, there was a splat and a spray of blood that splashed through the hidden basement. I got my feet onto the desk and huddled at the center. I smelled something like fresh water, mingled with the awful scent of dead human. The surroundings changed. Now, instead of carved rock walls, I could see open sky for as far as my mind could comprehend. Below me was an endless sea of white. Above me was an endless dome of blue, no sun, no stray nimbuses, just blue forever in every direction but below. My mind could not comprehend the fact that despite the sky existing above me, there was no sun. My mind demanded it, lusted for it. It wanted natural law to be respected. I had to curl up and wait until I could focus my thought on my surroundings again. As the water smell faded, I found I could look up, and I could now see everything above the white clouds below the edge of the table. If I was not careful, if I did not concentrate, the infinite sky came back, and vertigo returned. I sat up. My mind had accepted the paradigm shift. My soul felt unperturbed, but my body was reacting with extreme stress. I am indifferent to heights. I grip the piece of rock tighter in my hands than the average rock climber. But I have no phobia of heights. This was different. I smelled the instant death around me. "Jack? You alive down there?" Jim called to me. "Yes. Our guy wasn't so lucky." "So, can we take his ATV down the mountain instead of walking?" "That is the least of my problems." The desk I was crouching on was not being affected by the strange magic under my feet. Neither was anything else. As my mind handled the change, I could see shelves and chairs, everything that could poke above the cloud banks around me. I pulled out one of my expendable knives and dropped it. It clattered on the floor, but then bounced into a liquid. I assumed it was the blood of the dead Grand Mason. I stuck my head over the desk. That was a mistake. I saw the infinite blue expanse below and lost myself to it. Immediately, my body fell against the desktop and bounced off the wooden top. I pulled myself over back again. The desk had hit me hard, pushing the air out of my lungs. I gasped. The image of nothing beneath me left after images. I knew that it was an illusion. I knew that there was stone and dirt under my feet. It did not matter. I could not convince myself of the truth. There was an infinite blue below me, below the white cloud layer. I could not think of it any other way. I would fall forever and forever and forever. I did not know what killed our man, and I did not want to know. How could a man fall to his death? I breathed until the panic I was being forced to feel left me. I had to remind myself what was true every moment I thought about it. I reached my hand out, but there was no effect in the clouds. I put more and more of my body over the clouds until the majority of my body was over the strange mental abyss. I closed my eyes and swung over, keeping a good grip on the desk. My feet did not touch the rock floor. I pulled myself over and back onto the desk. Jim was sitting on the high stairs on the floor above. "Any ideas, Jim?" "No, I haven't seen this before. It's passive, waiting for someone to walk into the trap. It's a visual effect, but I saw you sink down into it when you swung over the side. I can't see anything in it. It's just nothing. I could see a little tendrils here and there, but like I said, we're probably already affected by it. We don't need a giant air octopus to pull us into the abyss." "That's an image." Something crackled. The briefcase was burning. I had to save what I could. "Jim, can you—" He was gone. I was going to be on my own. I reached over and grabbed the shelf nearby. It held my weight with only a little shaking, but I moved fast. I stepped onto the table. It rocked, but stayed secure. I grabbed the briefcase and slapped the papers. The burning had torched quite a bit, but the papers had survived. Leads had survived. I grabbed the briefcase and underhandedly tossed it at the stairs. It landed safely. I would not be so lucky if I lost my footing. I put my back onto the bookcase. The second I put weight on it, something cracked. I leaped for the more secure desk. I landed, but I looked deep into the infinite abyss of clouds below. I accelerated beyond terminal velocity, deep into a limitless blue. My mind reeled as the wind hit me and tore at my face and eyes. I screamed, but I heard nothing. I felt myself dragged down, deeper and deeper. I was falling, but my fingers gripped the desk. I looked around me. Whatever my body felt, my eyes saw the infinite blue. No limits. No other reality. I was tumbling, desperate for anything, even a hastily approaching ground to anchor myself to. I vomited, and I passed the clouds of gut juice so fast that only the pain of my core remained to my sight. One of my hands lost its grip. My nose skirted the clouds below me. Something reached out to pull me down, its fingers brushing my skin, but finding no purchase. The wind continued to blow, throwing my inner ear every way, but always down. My other hand lost its hold on the desk edge. I was going to grab on with my toes and hold as long as it took Jim to get his crap together. The will to live covers a multitude of sins, but gravity is an unfeeling debt collector. Before I had a chance to fall deeper, something slammed into my head. It pushed me up, and I could force my body to wriggle over the side and protect my head from whatever foul juju the white clouds were putting out. I gasped for breath. Jim was still poking my head with a stick. "I'm fine." I swatted it away. "Thanks for the save." "No problem." Jim grabbed the briefcase and took it upstairs. In a moment, he was tossing chairs, tables, and whatever else he could find into the basement. He created enough of a bridge for me to jump across. I ran upstairs and threw myself onto the ground. I hated that experience. I have felt a decent amount of damage over the years, but infinitely falling was not something I ever wanted to experience again. Jim just sort of looked at me. It was awkward. I'm a bit behind on the other guys right now. "What?" "So that's a pretty high-end ATV, and it has a VIN. Control is running it for us." "I'm gonna need a minute." Yeah. He sat next to me in companionable silence. That part was pretty nice. Control called us and informed us that it was owned by Richard Moon, and he was affiliated with the local Masons. Big surprise. I was going to burn their lodge down on the principle of the thing. Too many in Colorado, anyway. Jim helped me up, and I drove the two of us back to the Unismasher on the ATV. It was night by the time we got to Divide. He opened up the locks and severed the alarm. We were in the building in a moment. We ignored the fake pomp and circumstances of the decorations. Most of it was plastic. Fake. Meaningless unless you've had that secret knowledge. I hate secret knowledge. It's strong nonsense. It makes sense if you read X, or once you have the training to understand these things before these. This isn't science. How can a man call himself a Christian if he cannot understand Christ unless he read and understand every line of Aquinas, Luther, and Augustine? No, a man can be saved through knowledge gleaned from the Gospels alone. He needs not be initiated in some secret place, under secret stars, with secret rites. If a man, to gain power and honor, has to accept that truth is relative under some representation of Prometheus, and he does so, he weakens his own ability to say, "Here is the truth. I will die on that hill." All over the building were images of Prometheus, or fire, or depictions of supposed Masons. I know that there's a place for brotherhood in a man's life. We were not meant to be alone. My own habits are a sign of me being ill. How can a man build anything alone? No, the greatest thing a man can do alone is slay his enemies, if the enemy is worth slaying. Most men never build nor slay, but live until it is time for them to die. I cannot tell which is worse. Jim had taken point for me. He giggled at some of the astrolabes in the secret rooms. He showed me some sort of table with math scribbled on it. You know, most of this stuff is deliberately wrong, like obviously wrong. This stuff hasn't been relevant since Plato. Most magicians only use math for alchemy anyway. I had no comment on it. A phone ringing revealed our splattered friend's office. Jim slid the panel across for me. I know how to use one of these things. Jim pointed at the tape-based answering machine. He pressed a speaker button. Very analog, no internet connection. Don't touch anything else. If we wait, it'll play whatever they say out loud. There is a mess of stuff going on in this place. The wrong move will set it off. Let's just hope we can get a recording. We waited for the ringing to stop. Jim took out his phone. You know who has been released from custody earlier than expected and is on his way to the meeting place. Take him to the hallowed ground set aside for his filth. Initiate him in the cup and the sword rites, and send him to Jacob's Way. To compensate, I have pulled resources from the resurrected House of Saturn and given them to the House of Mars. That and the Traveler's information on unforeseen future celestial harmonies and high sacrifice days have put us back on our feet within the spiritual dominations. He has already returned profits for his asking price. I have set him to revivify the principalities on the East Coast. Rue Castle and his cadre still being dead. What's more, I have granted him Jacob's team to shed whatever blood he desires. Mark these portents. Vulcan is ascending within Mercury's plane of wandering, ahead of schedule. Look for a Venusian eclipse on the 24th. Make sure you take advantage of that potency. It never fails. Last thing, blood outs, and mine is coming for you. Capture or kill him if you can. His mother ruined him for us, after all. But don't let him take you alive. He knows enough to investigate the lodge. What you know is valuable, but it is better lost than captured. Do the right thing. Keep us safe. The answering machine clicked. Jim checked his phone. It caught it. Let's see if I can. His eyes focused on nothing. It disturbed me. Eyes aren't supposed to move like that. Not outside of disabilities or sight problems. I backed away to the open door. Our friend had some tricks here. Can't just pull it. He fiddled with something I couldn't see. Jim fell back over his chair. His fingers twitched like he had been shocked. I had my gun out facing the hidden panels and bookcases. Jim? I'm fine. There was, something there. I shouldn't have looked into the Vizio. The answering machine was smoking. The fire spread quickly, like lines of accelerant had been poured from the answering machine to the building around us. Books, papers, and more went up in smoke faster than I could pull Jim up. The room was blazing before the two of us were steady on our feet. Thank God I hadn't closed the hidden door. The track it glided on had collapsed as soon as the fire reached it. I half carried him out of the secret room and back out the door to the Unismasher. I could see another fire on the mountain. No going back there. We made our escape and did not stop driving until we were in the middle of Kansas. Jim sent me the file. Jim left from Wichita back home to California. I've scanned the documents we've gotten from the briefcase and sent them your way. I had stopped that fire in time, at least. Most of the documents were salvageable. The biggest piece of information is something I did not expect. The Grand Masons had lost 200 of their working members, including some of their fighters and magicians, in the Hecaton-Kire attack. That thing that Jim had killed had wiped out their own central bureaucracy. They had treated the mountain as a sort of home base and sent out missions from there while deceiving the Security Commission. They brought the stuff they had looted from our central there. I can't tell how much of the organization was lost there, but they have about 100 pages talking about it. If these documents are to be believed, I can't even imagine how much money they've lost due to secret funds being inaccessible thanks to the bloodlines dying out, and these weird trusts with names of just random letters and numbers, and then ends with a planet's name. No wonder they never counterattacked. They couldn't. Not with the Security Commission out for their blood. Well, they're changing now. Evil Sean did something to help them. What? I think Sean might be in danger. I haven't been able to reach him. I'll prepare some things. If Sean hears this, I'll wait for him at the coordinate labeled Hot Springs 7. We can't let them know where we're training the newbies. One last thing, that voice on tape. I know it was my father's. I've heard my father's voice for the first time in my life. I don't know what to think about it. He knows. He knew I was alive. And I don't know. I expected him to show up with a cold-plated gun, a goon with a special power, and an evil plan. Not some operational nonsense. Mother ruined me, he says. That's a good thing, but it makes me sick. A part of me will be glad to kill him. He is evil. I only hope that I have the opportunity to make him pay with my own hands. Whatever it costs me. Jack Morrow, out.
Pinkerton's Ghosts is a podcast distributed by Superversive Radio, licensed under an Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike International License. This episode was written by Ben Wheeler and is performed by the same. Ben Wheeler edits, directs, produces, and herds cats. Kid Dickerson performs our audio editing. Visit us on Facebook, read articles on superversivesf.com, or listen to us on unauthorized Acast, iTunes, or Spotify. Contact us through Twitter at @PinkertonsGhosts, email us at pinkertonsghosts@gmail.com, or send us noble messenger possums with messages strapped to their backs. Don't worry, they know how to find us. Thank you for listening, and good luck.